Good afternoon, everyone. The topic that we will address today is the Third Republic of the Philippines. This is Tim Kyle Indapan and with my partner, EJ Fernandez. So to begin, before the Third Republic, the First and the Second Republic during Japanese period were born amidst the turmoil of a revolution and harsh enemy occupation. This was the Malolos Republic. So there were many circumstances that involved when the country was founded for the First and the Second Republic during a revolution and harsh enemy occupation with these Japanese. This was the Philippines after the war. Our condition after the war. The Japanese fought savagely, inch by inch, and this led to our bitter fighting and destructions of farms, works, animals, machinery, yung mga buildings natin, roads, bridges, and thousands of Filipino lives. Makikita natin sa litratong ito na malaki talaga, hindi lang malaki, kundi malawak ang pinsalang pagkawasak sa ating bansa. Now, balik tayo sa the Third Republic. The Third Republic was no less turbulent. Ang taon na ito ay hindi na gaanong magulo dahil ito yung taong idiniklarang malaya na ang Pilipinas. The Third Republic of the Philippines was inaugurated on July 4, 1946. The United States formally recognized the independence of the Republic of the Philippines. The photo, what you have just seen on the right, was the official program. That was the souvenir. And also, on this day, Manuel Rojas became the first president of the independent Republic of the Philippines. Luneta Park, where the proclamation of independence done, and Rojas took his oath of office as president of the Third Republic. On April 15, 1948, Rojas died after delivering a speech at Clark Air Base, Pampanga, in which he promised Filipino cooperation with the United States in case of another war. The photo what you have just seen below was taken on April 17, 1948. Vice President Elpidio Quirino knelt and wept at Malacanang Palace for the deceased before putting the remains of Manuel Rojas in his final resting place. Here's some of the notable success of the Rojas administration. Includes reconstructions from war damage and life without foreign rule began during his presidency. Philippine Rehabilitation Act and Philippine Trade Act laws were accepted by the Congress. After when Rojas died in 1948, Quirino became the second president of the Third Republic of the Philippines. The following year, he was elected president for a 4-year term on a Liberal Party ticket, defeating the Nacionalista candidate. The Quirino administration opened diplomatic and trade relations with neighboring countries such as Thailand, South Korea, Nationalist China, India, Indonesia, and Australia. Hukbalahap movement is active during his presidency. President Quirino's administration faced a serious threat in the form of the communist-led Hukbalahap or the Huk movement. The name of this movement is a Tagalog acronym for Hukbo ng Bayan Laban sa Hapon. That was founded early in 1942 as anti-Japanese organization of peasants in Central Luzon. So these peasants were led by the intellectuals like Pedro Abad Santos, Lava Brothers, Vicente, Jose, and Jesus. Though the Huks originally had been an anti-Japanese guerrilla army in Luzon, the communists steadily gained control over the leadership, and when Quirino's negotiations with the Huk commander Luis Taruk, a Supremo, a peasant leader, broke down in 1948, Tarok openly declared himself a communist and called for the overthrow of the government. In March 1948, President Manuel Rojas declared the groups Hukbalahap and Pambansang Kasihan ng mga Magbubukid as illegal associations organized and maintained to commit acts of sedition and other crimes for the purpose of overthrowing our present government under the Constitution. Quirino's 6 years as president were marked by notable post-war reconstruction, general economics gains, and increased economic aid from the United States. Basic social problems, however, particularly in the rural areas, remained unsolved. Quirino's administration was contaminated by corruption. The 1949 elections, which he had won, were among the most dishonest in the country's history. Magsaysay, who had been largely successful in eliminating the threat of the Huk insurgents, broke with Quirino on the issue of corruption, campaigning for clean elections and defeating Quirino as the Nacionalista candidate in the presidential election of 1953. Subsequently, Quirino retired to private life. So that was my part. Mr. Fernandez will proceed.
So now I will be talking about the Magsaysay and the Hawks. So Ramon Magsaysay, who was Quirino's Secretary of National Defense, worked so hard to solve the Hawk problem. To solve the Hawk problem, he adopted strict measures which include organized and simultaneous raids by the armed forces and the police to arrest the Hawk leaders and supporters. And because of that hard work and strict measures, the Hawk Politburo fell into the hands of military and police authorities on October 18, 1950. Magsaysay won the presidency with the help of the American money in 1953, receiving a majority of votes. So Ramon Magsaysay caused the surrender of Luis Taruk, the Hawk Supremo. He also created extensive irrigation systems. He introduced the modern agricultural methods and approved the Agricultural Tenancy Act. After Tarok, Jesus de Laba, the successor of the Hawk chieftain, was captured also in Manila in 1964. So now, let us talk about Garcia and the Filipino First policy. On March 17, 1957, Magsaysay died in Cebu in airplane accident. So Carlos P. Garcia was vice president of Magsaysay and was elected president of the election on November of the same year. He anchored his program of government on an austerity. So ang austerity pasabot ana kay ga-aim siya nga ma-reduce ang government budget deficit. And he also proclaimed the Filipino First policy means that the Filipino would be master of their own land. So the policy dictates that Filipino would have preference over non-Filipinos in receiving foreign exchange. In line with the policy, Garcia pledged that his administration would assist Filipino entrepreneurs to make ventures in industries and dominate by non-Filipinos. So now, let us talk about the Macapagal and land reform. Because Garcia administration could not solve the problem of rising price and graft and corruption, Diosdado P. Macapagal, candidate of the Liberal Party for president, won the election of 1961. Diosdado P. Macapagal promised to solve the problem of unemployment and promote self-sufficient in food products. The Agriculture Land Reform Code, whose main provisions were 1. To establish and encourage the formation of family, size farm as the basis of agriculture. 2. To improve status of the poor farmers by freeing them from pernicious practices such as exorbitant rates of interest for loans. 3. To encourage bigger productivity to increase the income of small farmers. 4. To apply all labor laws to all irrespective for their status in life. 5. To provide the land settlement program and distribution of land. 6. To make the poor farmers independent, self-reliant, and responsible citizen in order to strengthen the Philippine democratic society. So land reform, a purposive change in a way in which agricultural land is held or owned, the method of cultivation that are employed, or the relation of agriculture to the rest of the economy. The old kasama system was substituted by the leasehold system. In this system, the tenant farmer, now leaseholder, will pay 25% of the harvest to the owner of the land. Aside from this, from July 4 to June 12 every year, in show the nationalist spirit through the executive order of Macapagal, changed the celebration of Independence Day. So from July 4, na-change siya to June 12. So July 4, in the proclaiming independence, was not made by Filipino, but made by US President Thurman, and was changed to Philippine-American Friendship Day of the Republic. So President Macapagal also proposed the organization uniting Malay-based country through Mapilindo, or Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia. This considered as precursor of the ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Lastly, I will be talking about the election of Marcos. So Ferdinand E. Marcos wanted to run presidency in 1961. So because of that, he left the Liberal Party and ran under the Nacionalista Party. In 1965, Senator Ferdinand Marcos, a liberal, was endorsed as the presidential candidate for the Nacionalista Party, and he became the Nacionalista with the help of his wife Imelda Romualdez, a niece of Norberto Romualdez of the Nacionalista Party. So Fernando Lopez elected as the vice president when Marcos won. Marcos' program of the government included 1. The production of more rice and the diversification of crops to attain self-sufficient in food. 2. Implementation of land reform program. 3. Community development to strengthen further our social, economic, and political base. Aside from that, he also developed the miracle rice, a new strain of cereal. Jose Maria Sinson, a new People's Army, or NPA. He strengthened the police force to deal with crime syndicates. SEATO, Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, sent a civic action of group of war in Vietnam. So conception of Tarlac, the massacre of peasants, and Corregidor Island, the killing Muslims trains in the infamous Jabida, and Manila, the killing cold-blooded of 30 members of Lapiag Malaya. And in 1969, Marcos ran for the election for the second term. Events did not augur well for him, the nation. So that would be all, and thank you.
As a summary of this topic, after the Second World War, the President of America granted the independence of the Philippines after the surrender of the Japanese forces in the Philippines. And Manuel Rojas was the first president of the Third Republic of the Philippines, while Ferdinand Marcos was the last president of the Third Republic of the Philippines. So there were 5 presidents who used the Third Republic. We have Manuel Rojas, or President Rojas, President Quirino, or El Pedro Quirino, President Ramon Magsaysay, followed by President Garcia. Next is President Diosdado Macapagal, and President Ferdinand Marcos. But in September 23, 1972, by the proclamation of 1081, Marcos declared martial law, and this is also the end of the Third Republic of the Philippines. So that was all. Thank you for listening.